All right, here we are, the Howard and John show. I am here with Howard Lerner, my friend.
Hey there, how you doing, John?
I am doing well, or as we say in the Midwest, I'm doing good. And
Yes,
that's
that is a Midwest thing. I'm
it's
doing good
Midwest.
too.
Good. It's a Rust Belt thing, It's blue collar. It's a
Yeah,
salt of the earth kind of thing.
I know it's so ingrained in me that I don't even think of it as a strange response. But you know, I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it is interesting, like to think about because of the um, where we live culturally. Like we don't think about it because it's just what it is. But
Right?
like I like it. I know it's improper, but when people say I'm well, I feel like, are they trying to correct me? Are they saying something about me?
Yeah, I don't. I think I've just been in it so long that
You don't even see it.
I
You're
don't
like
even
fish in
hear
water.
anything. I don't even, and honestly, when I say I'm good, I don't even think about it. I may not be good. I might be terrible. That's another thing about the Midwest. Oh, I'm good. It's like good. I may have like an arrow in my head, but I'm good. you know, we're just Midwest good.
That's such a ridiculous visual, but so
Yeah.
true. Um, and fitting to today's conversation,
Right.
which is about
The imposter syndrome.
imposter syndrome. So, I mean, not to say that all Midwesterners, that we are all imposters,
No.
but there is a sense that we all kind of fake it. And or we feel like we fake it, I should say, with this. And so, we've talked about this. We've touched on imposter syndrome in our
Yeah.
past podcasts.
It's well, we've touched on the imposter syndrome
Yeah,
for like it's a recurring theme throughout mm, all of our conversations. And I don't mean just you and me. I mean, I just feel like it's, and everyone I speak with, anytime I have a serious conversation about business or life, inevitably it gets back to the imposter syndrome. It
really.
may not be called the imposter syndrome,
Got
but
it.
it's really, so let's define what this imposter
What
syndrome.
is it? What is it to you? How do you define it?
Well, to me, imposter syndrome, it's a, it means it feels like when I, and I'm certainly susceptible to this, I am a big time imposter in my mind.
Really?
I'm incompetent. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm faking it. Eventually people are going to see right through me, and I'm going to be the laughing stock of the world because I can't possibly do what I say I can do. I
So you
can't
feel
possibly
you so
cover
really?
that bet. No. Yes.
So you feel like you're going to get found out that really you're just a fraud, right? To use a very
Well,
uh,
you asked me to define imposter syndrome,
no, yeah. But
but I
I'm
will say yes.
from
That
your
is
own personal experience.
from my own personal experience, and I've spent a lot of time talking to others about it, and I that is the common thread that runs through it. This belief that you'll be found out, that you're faking it, that you're not qualified, that you're not competent, and you'll be found out. And when you are found out, there will be consequences.
Interesting. So,
How about
but
you?
so real quick, that's a feeling, right? That's a feeling that you have.
It is a well, it is more than a feeling.
So
Someone who's it is a state. It is
it's
a
a state.
state.
So
It's
you
a state
actually
of
you're
being.
in there.
I am an imposter. I'm looking
Ah,
around and I am standing on a stage, and they know that an imposter. They're just waiting for the moment to pounce.
right.
That's what I'm experiencing. That's how I feel.
Got it.
And it's like on a continuum, it's all, I always feel a little bit of that going on, that's the thing. That's what imposter syndrome is.
Interesting. Yeah. So the way I would define it is somebody who feels like they are in a place um, that they shouldn't be, even though they have the expertise to be there. So they feel unfit, even though they are truly fit for that position, that title, that area of work. I think typically this is in vocation, where people feel the imposter syndrome. I can't be a CEO. I can't be a middle manager. I can't be even a beginner. And they just feel we feel like we cannot, uh, or it could be a task.
Right.
For me, it could be a project. I remember when I first started my venture into entrepreneurship, I felt like there's no way I can finish this project. I'm going to get found out.
So tell me about that. Okay, well, let's kind of go through that, because so you're talking about a specific incident, and in previous episodes of this podcast,
Yeah.
you've talked about your experience, your first experience as an entrepreneur, and
Yeah.
I think that's when you built a website
Yeah.
for a client. That's what you're
Yes.
referring to.
Yes.
And you felt like an imposter.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
I
you were an imposter. I mean, you had never
I
built a
was.
website
Yeah.
before. You didn't know what you were doing.
So I don't
So
think so. So there are some things I
that
don't
is
think
the
that,
definition of imposter.
Yeah. I definitely was.
Pretending
But
you're
I didn't
someone
pretend.
who you're not.
But I didn't pretend. He knew that I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
So there's a difference. I think that, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but
So
I
he
think
was
that
giving you a chance.
he was giving me a chance. So that was very different. I was very upfront with him. I was like, I don't know, I can do this. I just don't know how well I'll do it. But I think I could do it. I think he was taking a bet on me. And I think that there are just, people who are that kind and that generous who are willing to do that. I think that's different, but I could still feel that way, which I did. But it doesn't necessarily mean I was an imposter. I just had the imposter syndrome.
Right.
So I think that, just kind of parse it all out. I think there's one thing where you fake it till you make it, where you're actually faking it, and you might be slightly fraudulent. But I don't necessarily even blame those people. I think that because of our country, which is a very entrepreneurial country, people should, in many cases, try to fake it until they make it. I'm not saying to bend any laws, to break any laws, but I think that there is a case for that to be. But
how? Well, okay, so let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
We're talking about a specific incident when you
Yeah.
were assigned a task.
Yes.
You needed this job. You needed work.
Yeah.
And someone gave you an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You said, "I'll do it."
Yes.
What is it? So that's entrepreneurial. I'll take it. What am I taking, by the way? And so you take this web development job. You had not done that before.
No.
What did you ever get during the project? Did you, and I'm kind of jumping ahead.
Sure.
Did you ever feel less of an imposter during the process?
Oh no, I felt like an imposter because I was. I remember when I first.
So it never got better throughout the process.
No.
You just got better at overcoming those feelings of being an imposter.
I mean, I guess some of the feelings of it were anxiety, and a sense of fear, and feeling, because I had never done this professionally. And
Right.
I think all of those things are very natural. I just didn't know it at the time. I felt so unnatural. I felt so uncomfortable, because I was doing something I'd never done before, and somebody was paying me real money to do it. And so when he was my friend and my mentor. And so here he is taking a bet on me. I'm like, cannot fail this for him. I cannot. But I remember when I first did it, I felt like, oh my gosh, I am taking the biggest bite out of life, and my jaw is going to break. I felt that. I remember thinking,
and that's a lonely feeling, isn't it?
Oh, I was totally alone.
Because you were how old? 20 something?
How old was I? I was probably 30.
30?
I think I just turned 30.
And being an imposter is a lonely thing, because just the nature of feeling like an imposter isolates you. You don't stand on a mountain yelling, "I'm an imposter." You hide that. You try to cover that up. So it makes it intensifies those feelings because it's very no one's telling you, you're not an imposter because they don't know that you're having those feelings, and admitting those feelings may kind of let the cat out of the bag.
I think the very fact of starting something is very isolating. And
Mhm.
so, and at the time, it was 2008. Nobody was hiring. It was scary, and so everybody else had their own problems. It was called the recession,
Right.
and so when you have a recessionary problem of the great recessionary problem, then everybody's alone at that point.
Yep.
And so I was actually probably more blessed than many other people because I actually had
Mhm.
someone willing to pay me to do something that when a lot of people are losing their jobs.
But that's opportunity. That's opportunity. When opportunity comes your way, you answer the call. The issue is that once you took that job, now you had to perform.
Oh
Now
yeah,
you
I
had
had
to
to deliver.
deliver.
I
You
had to
had to
deliver.
deliver. And you probably had a timeline. You probably made
I did.
grand promises that
No, I
you had
didn't.
no
I
idea
did.
how those would.
I didn't
No,
make grand. No, well,
you promised a website.
So I learned in my previous job or my previous life to underdeliver, or underdeliver, under promise, over deliver,
Right.
and
Right.
that's the wrong way around. I'm like, yeah, that's right. So anyway, yes, under promise, over deliver, and I tried to figure out what that would be,
Mhm.
and I was able to deliver on time. Well, actually, I think ahead of time,
Yeah.
and hopefully I exceeded his expectations. He seemed very happy. Um,
Sure.
so anyway, what about you? Like what, so, when you talk about this imposter syndrome, you obviously, so one of the things that about imposter syndrome, it doesn't matter what height you've had in your success. And you've had heights, you've had peaks.
Mhm.
Um, Even with those peaks, even with where you've gone and where you are, you still feel that. And where did you feel that most acutely and why?
Well, I feel it all the time, and I'm not immune to it even today. In fact, in some ways, it's gotten more intense,
So,
more
so
difficult.
it's so even after, so now you are enjoying um, the 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 experiences of your success,
Yeah, and I'm going to be 55 the day after tomorrow.
and you feel this even more so.
More than I. Let me tell you, when I was 28 and starting Caldy's Coffee, I was kind of fearless. I didn't know all the that could go bad.
The
I had
naivete.
no idea.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
had no
yeah,
idea. And I
yeah.
just like walked in, and
Started
and
making things happen.
yes. Um, Now my work is more technical, more skills based. I'm it's I do web development now, as I've mentioned many times, and I will tell you that sometimes jobs come my way and I pass on them because I feel like I'm not up to the task. This happened this year. This
Really?
year that happened. Yeah.
Like what? So what was going through your head? What was actually? What's the play by play?
In our okay, yeah, I'll be completely transparent about this.
Yeah,
An RFP, a request for proposal, came
yeah,
my way. That's a doc. I'd say it's a it's sort of a call to to submit a proposal for a project. It's a
yeah.
way a lot of jobs get done. They an organization, in this case it was a local museum, sent out uh, a a, um, a request for proposals, and I got it. And they wanted a website rebuilt, completely redone. They were asking for all this functionality, and it got in my head. This imposter syndrome got in my head, and before I knew it, I just pulled myself out of it. I pulled myself out of it after submitting a. I did submit a proposal.
You
That I
did.
had. I submitted a proposal. I had an interview scheduled,
Wow.
and I canceled it.
Get out of here.
I canceled it. And this was not me at 28. This was me at the age I am now. I
So
did
why?
that.
What's going through your head? Why did you do that?
I I got overwhelmed with this feeling that I was going to fail.
What
This
were the
happened to me this year.
what was we've all got
So let
voice.
me stop
Yeah.
for the listeners. I don't want you. Spoiler alert: we don't have the answer. Okay, at least I don't. Maybe you do, John. But I'm not going to tell you that I have the cure for imposter syndrome. We're talking about imposter syndrome, and I'm
Yeah.
telling you that I've experienced some success in my life,
Yeah.
and I still have these feelings, and they still affect me. And I have a feeling they're going to affect me into the future.
No, yeah, I don't think it's something that you can cure, but I wonder if it is something that we can um, manage or to live with at a and improve that state. Um,
Yeah, I think there. I think there is. There are ways to do it, but my example was it's sort of a cautionary tale that this was a big job. I
yeah,
think I could have done it, and if I hadn't have been able to do it, I think I could have found people to fill in the gaps.
yeah.
But I've never failed at a project that I've tried in web development. I've always delivered, and I have lots of good reviews on Google, and so it got in my head. I
So
felt like I wasn't up to the task.
yeah. So what was in your head? So tell what's the language you were using to yourself when you were deliberating all this, and then also right before you decided to cancel the interview?
Um, the language was at the very beginning. It starts off being, I'm excited about the prospect of getting this work, and I threw myself into the proposal wholeheartedly. I took an entire day to write the proposal, so that's another issue. A whole day of my life. I submitted it. Then I get a call back, an email back, and come for an interview. And I sort of started a little voice starts
Yeah.
coming in my ear. The people that you're competing with, and I had an idea who those were. The agencies you're competing with are bigger than you. They have resources that you don't have. You are going to get stuck. You're going to get in a pit. You're going to dig a pit that you can't climb out of. It's going to be suffocating. It's going to be claustrophobic, and ultimately, they're going to find out that you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Mm.
And I canceled. This is so crazy. I canceled my interview,
Mm-hmm.
and I got in my car and I took a road trip and I went hiking, which was awesome. It was awesome, but probably not the best business decision I've ever made.
So what did you do afterwards? What did you do when you're hiking? Did any of that kind of creep up on you? What were you thinking? How did you deal with it?
Um, I didn't have a tremendous amount of regret. I didn't, the language that, so then the same language that sort of lies to you and tells you you're an imposter, because I know I could have done that job. The same language that lies to you and tells you that you're an imposter later tells you you made the good choice by not doing it, by backing out. That's the voice that says, see, you're enjoying your hike. See, you're not stressed out. You're not, well, I'm also not getting the thousands and thousands of dollars I would have gotten had I taken that and really learned a bunch of new things. I did that. That was me. That was me doing that at 54 years old.
So you know this.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a side of you that knows that you could have done it. Did you know that you could have done it when you were deliberating?
I don't know that anyone knows that they're going to be able to do the project. I think when you take on, and you do agency work,
Yeah.
you don't know. Sometimes technically there's just not a way to do what the client wants to do. But in this case, we're not talking rocket science here. I wasn't like building like the ACA website. I was just, and by the way, the big sites fail too. And, but no, I had a good inkling that I could get through this, that I could do this and deliver this project. My concern, it was fear, and I froze, and it was pure imposter syndrome, and I let it get the best of me. It was not a story of of my best self.
So you didn't have this as much in your 20s.
You know, I don't remember fear of this stuff when I was in my 20s. I jumped into things wholeheartedly. When I was a journalist in my 20s. I, I went to Washington, D.C. to work for the Jerusalem Post. I had interviews with all kinds of members of Congress, and I had an interview in the White House with the press secretary to George Bush. I don't remember ever feeling like I can't do this.
Really?
Then starting Caldies, I had no fears at all.
Huh.
This came up later. This was something that came up later.
What do you think is the catalyst? What do you think has caused that to enter into your life? Was there something that at an event, or was it a process, or was there just something?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. Something happened. I think it was in my 40s. I think it was.
So you became successful, and then you became like you started.
Maybe I had something to lose. Maybe this sounds right. Maybe what it was is that now people kind of know me a little bit. Now now my reputation. Now I have something I can be taken. When I was 28,
you had no reputation.
No reputation to lose. I was like, nobody knows me. I can screw up this coffee house and then try something
Nobody
different.
will care.
Yeah, as a journalist, I can ask a few dumb questions and leave, and maybe the guy will laugh after I leave. But I wasn't worried. I was young, and that's what you expect from young reporters. Just kind of a couple of dumb questions here and there, But then I amassed things to lose, and when I talk about that, I don't mean money. I don't mean property. I don't mean tangible objects. I mean a reputation in my own mind. Is a reputation in my mind that I had to lose. Now I had to do something worthy of the high stature of building a successful coffee house. It's ridiculous. I made a coffee house, and now I'm like putting myself on this pedestal. Like, I cannot risk that reputation.
So all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet
intellectually.
So what are you do? Like, what do you think you can do to press that understanding, that intellectual ideation principles into your heart, I guess, or into your belief system?
I don't know. I said I don't have the answers. This is not a podcast about the cure for imposter syndrome. This is just the imposter syndrome.
I think that. So I just.
How do you? Well, let me turn this on you.
Yeah.
Do you? What allows you to take on projects?
Yeah.
That you think might be over? First of all, do you ever take on projects that you think are over your head?
Oh yeah. I mean, so basically that's that one, and then I just kept on going bigger. And I think that.
So you've never backed out of anything?
I backed out of something not because of the project, but because of the client, typically.
Right, but that's
yeah, because I don't think
personality issue or something.
Yeah, just expectations. So, and I think that it was after the fourth bigger project, I started feeling more comfortable. It became more natural, and honestly, I think through the agency model, I started getting a little bored. And that's a very different podcast episode. What does it mean to be bored and burned out?
Yeah.
But with the imposter syndrome, in the initial stages of it, it was, okay, I am panicking. Let me acknowledge that I am panicking. And then let me.
What are you panicking over? Like, what are you afraid is going to happen?
I'm afraid we're going to fail. I think that,
what does failure look like? So walk us through this. What's going to happen?
I was, afraid that I was going to not be able to deliver what I had promised to my client. And so, not necessarily being late. I don't think that that's necessarily a failure. I think it was about being like completely, dropping the ball of like, we just can't do what we said we could do.
Like you get hauled, like that fear that you're brought into the boardroom, sitting around the big conference table, and they're saying, "We don't think you're up to this. We've
Or
given you a
or
chance."
or I'm saying it. I have to admit it, which makes it worse.
This is too hard. This is too hard.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't see a path to success with this
Yes.
project.
Yes.
Hire my competitor.
Yes.
They're better.
Yes.
Ouch. That's a tough one.
I mean, that is a terrible feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and the funny thing is, it's not even reality. It's just the visions in my head.
Absolutely.
Right. So I am
Yeah.
imagining this thing, obviously people who I think have imposter syndrome have very rich, imaginative imaginations where you can basically create these virtual realities of like, of utter failure. And you could feel every granular moment.
Yeah. That's what was going on with this project, this museum project. It's like, I could smell the room that in which I was being fired in. I could feel that sort of taste that like comes up in your throat of your
the bitterness.
It was, and all I had to do to alleviate that pain was just cancel that interview. Just cancel it.
Cancel.
And the pain goes away. It just goes away. And it went away, but it was replaced with forever wondering, knowing that the project would have gone really well, and it would have come out. And even if I had to, there was enough money into it, even if I had to hire someone to get me out of a hole, which, let me tell you, every web developer has had to get some major help.
Yeah, of course.
It's, but so that's the thing. That's it. It took me on. Now, if I had had a partner in this, I do this solo. If I had a partner pushing me on, like Suzanne was always great. If I had imposter syndrome going after a big client, she could bolster me a little bit. And likewise, I could bolster her a little bit. And that's where a good partnership comes in.
So
you either have a good partnership or a good sense of self-esteem, but
both. I think that's what it is about community and partnerships, especially where in business, since we're talking about imposter syndrome, which I think often it lies within vocation. When you have a partner, it doesn't have to be a formal business partner, but you have somebody else speaking into that situation. Just having that sounding board is so valuable. And I think even before that, one thing that I think that was able for me that helped me was being able to speak to myself and figure out how to speak to myself, and having that language of, I think there's got to be some kind of short circuit where we go, hey, because the question I always ask myself is, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is what I described, is that I had to admit to the world, and especially to my clients, these people that are important to me, that I utterly failed. Then I have to do the percentages. And I go, okay, what's the likelihood that this is going to happen?
Right.
And then once I start doing that, putting things into like, very fudgy numbers, but I was like, the likelihood of it is probably 10%. Maybe the highest is 25%. So I'm like, oh, once I start putting that into place, I go, oh, okay, so I still have 75% my way.
The odds are in your favor.
Yeah.
And exactly. But you said something, you said, well, what's the chance that this project is going to fail? That's not what's going through my head in my own sort of personal brand of imposter syndrome. What's going through my head is, I'm a failure. I'm worthless. It's not the project. The project is really just tangible proof of what I am. It is a very deep and insecure.
Where is that? Where is that coming from? Why is that? Because I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's not uncommon. I've spoken with enough people. I think we're clear on this. This is a, maybe it's a psychological problem. I don't know. What do they call it? A syndrome? I don't know if it's a syndrome. I first heard about the term imposter syndrome when I was actually at a word camp in Phoenix. I think it was like 2014, and it was a WordPress event that they have all around the country in different cities. And I went and I heard a speech by a guy named Chris Lemma. You know who Chris Lemma is?
No.
He's sort of a thought leader in tech and WordPress and web development, and he's got quite a reputation. He's a really smart guy. And I stumbled into this speech, and he was talking to the big group, and I'd never heard of him before. And he was talking about the imposter syndrome. I said, well, what is that? I had no idea what that meant. And he said, and he told a story of how he graduated at the top of his class in high school.
Yeah.
And he was accepted to Stanford University in a bioengineering program. He was a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And but when he graduated high school, he felt, as he was graduating, he felt like, I know I'm at the top of my class, but the truth is it wasn't a very competitive class. That's what he said. It wasn't a very competitive class. And so, you know, sort of degrading his accomplishment. And then he gets to college, and he gets in there, and he looks around and he says, these kids look smarter than me. These kids look smarter than me. So he changes his major.
He does.
Something like communications or something. Like, I don't want to bash communications people, because communications can be very challenging. But he chose communications because it wasn't as competitive as this bioengineering program. So got out, something like that, something like communications. And he let his fears take over and control his life. So he had to, then later, as he kind of got back on track and he got back into tech and things are kind of getting better, but he's still dealing with imposter syndrome. But every time he'd get an award or someone would say something good, he said, well, it was my team. It was my team that did this. I don't take credit for it. And it's great to give credit to others. Of course, you are as a team, but he was doing it to diminish his accomplishment again, his own participation in it. And that self-talk, a lifetime of self-talk, creates these grooves in our brains. Yeah. And then we fall into these grooves, and they're our comfortable place. So you can see how a negative self-talk groove can be a comfortable place. Yeah. It's the thing, and we all know that. It's familiar. It's the same thing with abusive relationships. It's the same thing with, it is an abusive relationship. It's an abusive relationship with yourself. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's where I heard about this. And I'm going to actually link to the YouTube video of his talk, because it's available. I've watched it a few times. I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, please do. Yeah. So do you journal at all? No, I don't. I have grand aspirations. So I listened to this podcast, another one about who was interviewed was this a cognitive neuroscientist that specializes in anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so she wasn't talking about imposter syndrome, but I think that there's a kinship between imposter syndrome and anxiety. And she talks about how anxiety is it's a natural thing. Everybody goes through it. And I wonder also with imposter syndrome, I've read stats of like 70% of people, struggle with this, which obviously is almost everybody. I'm assuming everybody actually does at one point in their life, as well as anxiety. And in that, she's saying that everybody has it, and at the same time, it can be managed. So there are some people who don't manage it well, and some people do manage it well. Mm-hmm. And one thing that she said that really helped people to manage it is to do mindful practices, and then to actually reflect on their life and pull out the things that are causing them anxiety, which I could also think of would be imposter syndrome. What are mindful practices? What does that mean? Like she talks about meditation. Okay. Breathing exercises, I guess yoga could be a part of that too, and exercise in general. Okay. And then once you kind of reflected on these things, and actually to journal on them and to write about them, and then to reframe your mind through that by giving yourself mantras, is what she would say, like, little mottos or whatever. You can do it. It's okay. This is doable, or whatever it is. Post-it notes on your mirror. Exactly. You're a rock star. You are the man, Howard. I'm the man. Yeah, right. So like something like that. And she's, she pulled out this whole like 5 to 7 step process of
what that is. And I wonder, because I just, the last couple of years started journaling. I've been, I
Yeah.
try to journal here and there, but I have
Yeah.
found it hugely helpful.
You're not talking about your blog. You're talking about
No,
johnpod.com,
not johnpod.com, just johnpod, my notepad.
which
And
is not public. It's not a public
no,
document.
no. This nobody wants to read
Because
this.
I would like to see that.
Would you really?
I would love to read that.
That's
I would love to know
fascinating.
what's going on inside the brain of John Paul.
I mean, it's funny. Oh, so this is my practice. There's one of my habits. So we'll go back to the last time. So I write every night before I go to bed. Every night, without a doubt. And it's not big. It's like very, it's abbreviated. And I just write some of the major things, highlights in the day, and then some of the feelings that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, it really helps me like deal with things. And I haven't really felt as much imposter syndrome lately. The only thing the overarching kind of place where that felt was in my writing, and I've talked about that a lot here. But there hasn't been that much. If I was biting off something more than I could chew, maybe the podcast. I think the podcast actually creates a little bit of like, hey, I'm naked out here.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is way outside my comfort zone.
Yeah, we're exposing ourselves. We're like, flailing in the wind right now. Sharing our feelings and our most tender moments and tender spots.
Right.
So there is a little bit of that definitely with this, because we had no idea what we're doing, and we probably still don't.
But you know what helps?
What helps?
Likes and subscribes. Just
Indeed,
a quick
it does,
plug.
friend.
If you're listening, like us, subscribe to us. Otherwise, we will we will spiral into a pit of.
I'll be journaling about it.
I don't journal, so I will just be flailing on my floor. I'll be curled up in a fetal position.
You need a journal, though. I think that
I do. I think I do.
Plug that into your habit layer, and
yes, the habit layer, right?
And which, by the way, there's a new blog post that Howard wrote, and it's about habits, and just a bounce off of last week's episode, and it's
habits versus decisions.
A fabulous post. So
thank you.
Check it out. It really is, and
it's not very long.
No. It's a bite-sized read, but yeah. So back to the thing. So I think writing and journaling, and so I do that every single night, and then on Sunday mornings, I will read over them and review the whole week, and kind of see where I recalibrate, see where I was, and to see what's better or what's worse, and try to recalibrate these things. And what this neuroscientist said was that thoughts are like trees. That was her imagery.
Yeah.
Thoughts are like trees, and they'll grow and root and have these leaves and branches. And you can actually reframe your thoughts. But I think she said it was.
Who is this person? This
I will. Let's podcast. We'll link to the podcast below. But it's an incredible, very insightful and helpful piece.
It's a podcast, though.
It is this woman's. She's obviously this professional.
We'll get the details.
But it is in podcast form, and so one thing she said was it takes. I think she said 21 days for someone to reframe their thought. A thought. Okay. So literally, so you've got this tree of a thought rooted in your head, and it's sprouting, and it's got branches, and it's probably thinking, I'm not good enough for XYZ, or I cannot do this project because it's too big for me. So the way you do it is, she just went through the whole practice, and I probably skipped a couple steps, and but it can be done. So I wonder with your imposter syndrome, that if it can be not necessarily uprooted, but you have a replacement tree that can grow in its stead.
Wow, I love that.
So, I mean, it's something. I think that not necessarily. I don't think imposter syndrome will ever be, especially we should really struggle with, will ever be killed. But I do think that we can help ourselves in better practices.
Why do you think imposter syndrome is so pervasive and so like it must serve some purpose? There must be some. What do you think?
I don't think it's all bad. I think that.
So tell me about that. What is it? What do you think? Like,
I think that
what's
it's
good about
mixed
the
up.
imposter syndrome?
Well, I think it's a fork in the road. Just like when we're deciding whether or not to take the project or not, um, you know, it provides for us that moment of like clarity of like, oh, it's like this is big, and I think it either ups your commitment level or
Mhm.
you bail. And I don't think either one are necessarily always the wrong choice or not. I think that in life, people have, moments where you just got to bail.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what's interesting is that we talk about when we talk about if you go to a sales conference, you hear these gurus and they talk, or talk about technical sales. It's like, well, you got to look at all the different metrics, look at the key performance indicators, look at all these sort of inputs, and you can calculate your pricing, and then you just make the decision.
Yeah,
And I kind of mentioned, data driven decision making
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. In
blog
the
post,
post.
but one factor that we don't consider that we probably should consider is our psychological state, is our
Yeah,
confidence level, is all
yeah,
those things. Because that look at I was prepared to do this project.
yeah,
I have the skills to do it.
yeah,
I had the connections to do it. Everything was in my favor.
yeah.
The piece that wasn't was my own
Your own
confidence level,
mindset.
my
Yeah,
own mindset, and that undermined me.
yeah. Totally
And if
kick
it's
you out from the.
undermining me at 55, having hit a few home runs in my life, I can imagine what that's like for someone who's, I just think about, someone who's working a job in a factory or driving a forklift or doing something like that. And they're trying
Yeah,
to justify, walking in their boss's office saying, I quit. I'm going to try something new.
yeah,
I got an idea,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that
it's debilitating. I think it's like I think it's a serious issue.
it is. It is
Because
debilitating. But no,
I'm
no,
not
no.
the
But
only
I don't.
one.
I don't think it has to be debilitating. I think it is a wake up call. So I think it's natural. It happens, and I think it's. But the one thing that makes it debilitating when we root it into our identity, and I think that's the biggest issue is that once it's taken root into it's not just that I failed, I am a failure, or it's not just
Right. Yeah.
I
It
can't do this.
defines you. Like
Yes,
this defines me. I'm like, so like if I build a good website and successful, that means I'm a good person. I'm validated. No, I
yeah.
just means I did that thing. I could still be a mass murderer. I'm not. But it's,
Thank you for clarifying, by the way.
yes. Well,
You never know, I guess.
these people only see us an hour a week, so I have a lot of time to fill. But but I do think that a healthy amount of stress, it's a motivator, and we do
Pressure.
need to stop and say, is this a job I can do?
Yeah,
Is it, I guess I could get a request for proposal to build a rocket,
yeah.
but is that imposter syndrome if I say I can't do that? No, I
No,
can't do
yeah.
that.
You know
That's
the
something
skill
I
set.
can't do. Right. But when you have, so then the issue is, do you have the skill sets? At what point does imposter syndrome break away into just incompetence? And I'm incompetent to do lots of things,
Yeah. Well,
and
I think that's where the gray area is that, once you put in the concept or what you're learning something, that's where that's where the gray is, because I think that, you know, um, learning something is valuable and you will feel like an imposter, but I think learning how to, um, get over that feeling or at least push it aside so that you can continue
Mhm.
to learn. I think that's critical. Otherwise, you'll never, gain a new skill. You'll never actually evolve. You'll never recreate yourself. You have to push that aside a little bit and quiet it. And I think one of the greatest ways to do that is to focus in on that thing that you're trying to learn. Because once you can't have and try to learn something and then also at the same time feel like you're an imposter, especially when you're in flow or you're actually flowing into work.
What do you
Um,
mean? To explain that a little bit.
so for instance, when I'm writing, and I feel like I'm an utter failure. I am a terrible writer. That's what the imposter syndrome. I am a terrible. That's how I
There's a
define myself.
voice. You have
There's a
that
voice,
voice.
and that's one of the trees of thoughts that are in my head. But when I'm actually writing and enjoying it and like fully in it in the flow state, this is like a technical term of flow state, when hard things become easy and
Yep.
you've been doing it for an hour or two or three or four, and it's just flowing like a river. So for me, when I'm in that flow state, I do not think anything else other than I am dancing along with these words that are coming out of me. And
You're
so
in the zone. So
I'm in
people
the
call
zone.
that in the zone, or
Yeah.
you're,
I
yeah.
cannot feel like I'm an imposter because I'm enjoying what I'm doing way too much. And so I think that for people who are learning, obviously you don't really get there very often when you first start, but once you start getting a little bit of a flavor or something, some building some of the tool sets, and then you start actually going, and once you really start getting into some type of work, whether if it's painting, I don't know, whatever it is, maybe it's communication, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's whatever it is
Yep.
that you're trying to learn, you'll be too busy, too preoccupied in your mind to be thinking to be thinking negative thoughts about yourself. I'm not saying to run away from, but this is actually running. Instead of running away, you're running to the thing you want to do.
So how do you know when to listen to that voice saying, maybe this is over your head, and when to say, something, I can do this? How do you know? Because it's a powerful voice.
It is a powerful voice. So a couple of things I would say, we should probably close with, some closing thoughts. I think it's all about betting. This is all about risk reward, which is kind of a different thing. But I think with imposter syndrome, it is a confidence thing, it's identity thing. But when you're making decisions, I find it more useful to frame the thoughts around risk reward, and also around capabilities or culpabilities. For me, if I feel like, again, it's what's the worst case scenario, and I start playing percentages out. And for me, like, when I first started the web dev shop, it was, I think, maybe 60-40, maybe 50-50. If I kept it simple, as far as whether or not I'd be succeed or not. I felt
your chances. Okay.
I think I was confident enough to I can pull this off. But there was there's a lot of unknown factors there. Whereas now that I'm more experienced, like, dude, it's like 90-10, maybe 100%. There's very little chance of failure here. So there's that. So if somebody's coming to me with a project, the bet is a very low risk. Now doing something different, whatever it is, it's podcast, give me 16, I don't know, who knows?
Right.
But how do you know, how would you make decisions? I think it has nothing to do with culpability, you're just, making bets there. I think the question is, do you really want to do it? Is this something you really enjoy? And you don't have to make a huge bet. If it's something you really enjoy, you can just make small bets. You can just learn something. Now, if it's a project, I think and somebody's going to pay you actual money for that. I think that's again about the capability set, and then the making the bet whether or not what's the probability of you being able to do it.
Yeah, because you have a responsibility to the client. I mean, they don't know that you are an imposter. They don't know that you're struggling with these feelings. Your client just wants the work done, and they trust in you.
But you knew you could do it.
Well, I
you knew that you could do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, history is on my side. That I have the background and the knowledge to do it, or I should say, I knew that it would get done. whether I would do it, or I'd bring someone in and maybe destroy my profitability on that. But that wasn't the issue. The issue wasn't, am I going to make money on the project? The issue was, am I going to go down in flames?
Yeah, you didn't think you could do it, but you could do it. So I think that the question is, and also, the question is, maybe you made the right choices because it might not have been good for your mental health.
It might have been I think it might have been very stressful, right? And be very difficult. Who knows? But either way, I think that it's worth giving some journaling to. I think that would have helped because it would be interesting
Yes.
to look back. Had I journaled, I
Yes.
could look back and I could see what my mind frame was, because it's a little foggy. That was not a pleasant time. And you know something, it was all alone. I honestly, I haven't told anyone that. This is you, because and whoever's listening,
Thank
now
you.
you know this.
Appreciate
But
that.
this, you know,
No, I appreciate the vulnerability. I think that's beautiful. It's yeah. I
I'm
think that
taking a bet that others feel this way too. Because
yes.
if I feel this way, I'm sure others feel this way. And I know that if Chris Lemma feels this way, and he's a rock star,
Yeah, we all
then
do.
you know we all do. We all feel that way. So let's continue the conversation. Morph it and maybe do a little bit of writing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think at least I'll write a post this week. Maybe you write a post.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely put the show notes in the website.
Oh,
And
speaking of the post, sign up for the newsletter. Subscribe. All you have to do is put your email in. That's it. Just write your email and hit subscribe, and you'll receive the newsletters and the show notes as they're published.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to come to the website. You can just open your email,
get it right in your inbox,
and they magically appear.
Yeah. So great conversation. Thank you so much for being sharing your thoughts and
thank you, John.
Deepest tenderness.
Yeah. It feels good. It feels good.
It does. Yeah. No, I mean that's amazing. And also, it's great just to see your face as usual.
Yeah. I look forward to it every week.
Likewise.
And, you did not disappoint. So until next week.
Until next week, my friend. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye.
You too.